My name is Alex Miller, and ever since I was 16 years old, Dominic Toretto has been my hero. Not a day passed when I didn't replay the roar of that Dodge Charger's engine in my mind, recite Dom's mantras about family and loyalty, or dream of sliding behind the wheel of a muscle car and racing toward freedom. While other teenagers obsessed over pop stars or pro athletes, I was transfixed by a character who embodied honor, speed, and the unwavering bond of family. That devotion shaped my entire life, my friends, my career choices, even the way I viewed relationships. By the time I met Marissa at a charity car show in my early 20s, I'd already built my identity around the world of street racing and cinematic heroism. She approached me by the gleaming hood of my restored '69 Charger and asked, half joking, if I could teach her to do a proper burnout. When I looked up, she winked and said, "Letty would approve." My heart leapt. Here was someone who not only tolerated my obsession but embraced it. We spent the next few hours sharing anecdotes about our favorite stunts, debating whether Tokyo Drift was the weakest link in the franchise, and comparing notes on which engine swaps made the sweetest growl. Our courtship was as cinematic as my fandom. I took Marissa on late-night drives through winding mountain roads, blasting the soundtrack from Fast 5. She'd lean her head against the seat, eyes closed, smiling as the tires squealed around hairpin turns. She cheered when I finally nailed the perfect drift. In turn, I attended her spin classes and helped her rehearse dance routines for fitness conventions, her own stage. We were each other's world, the perfect partners in life's grand race. When I proposed, it was during a midnight screening of Furious 7. As Dom and Brian stood on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean, I paused the film and pulled out a ring. Marissa laughed through tears and said yes before the credits even rolled. We married the following year at a classic car museum. The aisle was lined with restored muscle cars, and our officiant wore a leather jacket in homage to Toretto himself. Our vows echoed Dom's creed. I promise to ride with you, or die by your side, through every quarter mile and every storm. We sealed our promises with a kiss, surrounded by the hum of V8 engines and the cheers of our friends. In the early days of marriage, life felt like a joyous spin around a racetrack. We restored cars in the garage together, hosted watch parties for every franchise premiere, and even launched a small YouTube channel called Charger and Heart, where we reviewed cars and shared stories about our relationship. Our subscribers loved our chemistry, my geeky enthusiasm balanced by her wit and warmth. The channel grew steadily, and soon we were invited to local auto expos, where we met other fans and fellow creators. But beneath the surface of our shared dreams, cracks began to form. Marissa's fitness career skyrocketed. She became a sponsored athlete, traveling to conventions and collaborating with brands. Meanwhile, I threw myself into Charger and Heart, spending late nights editing footage, negotiating sponsorship deals, and chasing views. We supported each other's passions, but our time together dwindled. Marissa's absence at home became routine. I buried myself in work to compensate. I told myself this was normal for ambitious couples, but a hollow ache grew in my chest. Then the news broke. Dominic Toretto would appear in person at a charity rally, Ride with Your Hero, raising funds for youth programs. Fans could apply for VIP passes, including a chance to ride alongside Dom himself. I applied immediately and shared the news with Marissa, expecting her to be thrilled. Instead, she seemed distracted. When I asked if she wanted to join me, she hesitated and said she had to finalize a contract with a fitness sponsor that same weekend. I swallowed the sting, masking my disappointment. "Go ahead," I said. "I'll represent us both." She kissed my cheek and promised to catch the live stream. As the rally approached, I busied myself with preparations, detailing my Charger until it shone, printing custom Team Miller t-shirts, and planning the perfect questions for the Q&A. Marissa assured me she'd call at every checkpoint. But each time her call came, it was brief and vague. "Busy," she'd say, voice clipped. "Don't worry, it'll be fine." My unease grew, but I clung to the hope that our shared passion would bring us closer again. On the morning of the rally, I awoke before dawn, heart pounding with excitement. The air was crisp as Marissa drove me to the staging area. We posed for photos in front of the lineup of Chargers, and she snapped selfies with me and my hero's poster. For a moment, I felt that old spark of unity. But then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression tightening. I asked if everything was okay. She nodded but didn't elaborate. We joined the convoy, engines roaring, and followed Dom down a scenic mountain pass. Cameras mounted on drone rigs captured every drift and gear shift. Marissa sat beside me, cheering when I hit apexes and high-fiving me at every corner. It felt like the good old days, until the rally's halfway point, when she suddenly excused herself, saying she had to check on something with the organizers. I watched her walk away, phone pressed to her ear, and felt a pang of suspicion I couldn't shake. The rally concluded at a scenic overlook, where Dom held a meet and greet. Fans lined up for autographs and selfies. When my turn came, I felt my pulse quicken. Dom smiled, signed my t-shirt, and clapped me on the shoulder. Marissa hovered behind him, laughing at something he said. They shared a private joke. Her eyes sparkled in a way I'd never seen before. My smile froze. Something in that look sent a chill through me. I snapped our selfie and forced a laugh, but inside, my heart was cracking. As we drove away from the rally, the post-event euphoria faded. Marissa's text with the organizers went unanswered. She was quiet, her gaze fixed on the passing mountains. I reached for her hand. She flinched and looked away. "What's wrong?" I asked softly. She sighed, avoiding my eyes. "Nothing. I'm just tired." But the tremor in her voice said otherwise. That night, I lay awake in our hotel room, staring at the ceiling. The excitement of meeting my hero had soured. I realized I was more alone than I'd ever felt. Tomorrow, I would have to confront whatever was brewing beneath Marissa's smile. Little did I know how profoundly my world was about to shift, how the betrayal I'd been dreading would not only break my heart, but shatter my faith in the very hero I'd worshipped. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, painting the hotel room in pale gold. I rose early, trying to piece together what I'd sensed the night before. Marissa was still asleep, her breath even. I watched her for a moment, her dark hair splayed across the pillow, lips parted in a peaceful slumber. The woman I married, the one who promised to ride with me through every storm, seemed miles away. I slipped out of bed and headed to the bathroom, where I splashed cold water on my face. My reflection looked tired, haunted. My mind replayed yesterday's events, the rally, the convoy, the meet and greet. But it was the moment I caught Marissa and Dom sharing that secretive laugh that burned brightest. I knew I had to confront her, but I dreaded what I might uncover. At breakfast, Marissa appeared composed, tucking into omelets with practiced cheer. "Good morning," she said, offering me a bite. I managed a nod, but my appetite was gone. "We should head back to the rally site soon," she added. "They're setting up the charity auction." I watched her, searching for any sign of deceit. She met my gaze, smiled, and I felt a pang of guilt for doubting her, but only briefly. We drove back to the event grounds in silence. I wanted to believe in her, to trust the woman I loved. But each time her phone buzzed, she slipped it into her pocket, her brow knitting in concentration. I asked again, gently, "Who's texting you so much?" She sighed. "It's just the rally coordinators. They're finalizing details. Don't worry about it." I nodded, but the knot in my chest tightened. The charity auction was a spectacle, a lineup of exotic cars donated by sponsors, each with a starting bid that made my head spin. Dom took the stage to announce the first lot, a custom Charger with his signature on the hood. The crowd roared. Marissa elbowed me excitedly. "This is going to raise so much money." She reached for my hand, but I yanked mine back, startled. Her face fell. "Alex," she whispered, but I shook my head. After the auction, they held a pit crew challenge where teams of fans raced to change tires. I signed up, determined to prove myself. Marissa watched from the sidelines, chatting with a man I didn't recognize, tall, dark-haired, wearing a rally staff badge. He introduced himself as Mark. Marissa smiled broadly and shook his hand with familiarity that made my skin crawl. During the challenge, I fumbled with the lug nuts, fumbling under the pressure of the crowd and the camera lights. When I glanced up, I saw Mark leaning close to Marissa, whispering in her ear. She laughed, then touched his arm. My chest tightened. I tried to focus on the tire, but my hands shook. After the challenge, I confronted Marissa quietly. "Who is Mark?" She startled, then recovered. "He's just part of the rally staff," she said, "helping with the logistics." Her tone was too casual. I pressed on. "You've been spending a lot of time with him today." She looked away. "I needed someone to coordinate the schedule. I asked for help." I nodded, but suspicion gnawed at me. The final event was a live Q&A with Dom. Fans lined up to ask questions. When our turn came, I held the microphone, ready to express my lifelong admiration. "Dom, what advice would you give to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps, someone who values family and speed above all?" I asked, voice steady. Dom smiled, looking directly at me. "Keep your family close, and trust them to have your back, no matter what." My heart skipped. Was that a message to me? Then he turned to Marissa and added, "And always let the ones you love know how much they mean to you." He paused, and the cameras caught Marissa's face as she looked at Dom with something more than admiration. The feed cut to a commercial, but the image was seared into my mind. Backstage, the tension between us crackled. Marissa avoided my gaze, focusing on her phone. I took it from her hand and unlocked it. Messages from Mark flooded the screen, text full of affection, invitations to meet after the rally for a private celebration, promises of longer talks once the camera stopped rolling. My blood ran cold. Marissa snatched the phone back, her eyes wide. "Alex, give that back," she cried. I held it high, reading aloud. "Can't wait to be alone with you, Marissa." "What is this?" She crumpled, tears falling. I'm sorry," she stammered. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed bitterly. "It looks like you and Dom aren't the only ones having fun at my expense." Her tears fell harder. "I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." My world spun. I left her there, phone in hand, and walked out into the daylight. The rally's final lap echoed behind me, engines revving. I realized that the betrayal had begun not with a kiss, but with 1,000 stolen glances, secret messages, and broken promises. As I walked away, I vowed that I would confront the heartache head-on, even if it meant racing alone. When the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the rally grounds in hues of orange and purple, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The final event, a live broadcast called Last Lap with Dom, was about to begin. Fans had gathered behind barricades, phones held high. Cameras perched on cranes, drones buzzed overhead, and satellite vans lined the perimeter. This was the moment I dreamed of, standing beside my hero, speaking on live television. Instead, I sensed the ground shift beneath me. Marissa and I climbed the bleachers behind a branded backdrop. The host's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our final guest, Alex Miller and his wife, Marissa." The crowd roared. I waved, heart pounding, and Marissa forced a smile next to me. She looked different. Her cheeks were flushed, and she kept glancing at the side entrance. Dom strode into view, silhouetted by the setting sun. He waved and took the microphone. "What's up, everyone? Thanks for sticking with us. This final lap is for charity. Every dollar we raise tonight goes to the youth racing program. Alex, Marissa, what's it been like riding with your hero?" My voice trembled as I spoke. "It's been incredible, Dom. I've admired you since I was 16. This means the world to me." I gestured to Marissa and my wife, who made this happen. The host nodded, passing the mic to Marissa. She cleared her throat, her eyes flicking toward the entrance. "It's been amazing, and Dom has been a true inspiration." Her words sounded rehearsed. I sensed she was stalling. The cameras panned to the side gate, and I realized what was coming, the surprise guest announcement she'd orchestrated. The host grinned. "Now, before we hit the track, we have one more special appearance. Marissa, take it away." She nodded and stepped aside. My heart sank as the side gate opened and a familiar figure emerged, Dom, again. He'd slipped behind the stage and returned wearing a dark jacket, his hair slightly mussed. But he wasn't alone. Behind him, in the twilight, I saw Marissa's silhouette. She held his hand as they walked into the spotlight. My breath caught. The crowd erupted in cheers, but they weren't cheering me. They were cheering the two of them, my wife and my hero, together. The realization hit me like a freight train. This was no innocent surprise. It was the unveiling of their secret. Dom took the mic again, his voice calm. "Alex, Marissa, tonight, we wanted to do something special." He turned to her. "Are you ready?" Marissa smiled, stepping forward and looping her arm through his. "I am," she said. The camera zoomed in as Dom dipped her in a gentle half-kiss. The cheers turned to a stunned hush, broken only by a few gasps. My world tilted. The next seconds passed in slow motion. The host stammered, trying to salvage the moment. Folks, this is unexpected, but isn't love grand?" The crowd murmured, phones raised. I stared at them, my wife and Dom, sharing the intimacy I'd fantasized about but never shared. My hands went numb. I felt sweat bead on my forehead. Without thinking, I dropped the mic and bolted off the bleachers. Security guards rushed past, their radios crackling. I heard Dom call my name, but I didn't stop. My Charger sat idling at the VIP lot, our car, now an unwilling witness to my betrayal. I sprinted toward it, ignoring the shouts behind me. Sliding into the driver's seat, I slammed the door. My hand shook as I gripped the wheel. The engine roared to life, but I didn't drive. I just sat, breathing hard, listening to the roar of the rally fade into the distance. My phone vibrated, messages from friends. "What's going on? Are you okay?" I ignored them all. After what felt like hours, I drove away, headlights cutting through the dusk. I didn't know where I was going, only away from the scene of my humiliation. The road stretched before me, empty except for my thoughts. Every memory of Marissa's smile, every shared laugh, felt like a lie. When I finally pulled over at a deserted rest stop, I called our old editor, Sam. Sam, I can't do this. I'm done. His voice was gentle. Take the night. We can figure it out tomorrow. I hung up and stepped into the cold night air, the rally's lights a distant glow. I whispered into the darkness. My hero betrayed me. Tears stung my eyes. I felt alone, unmoored, like a racer stranded on an empty track. The days after the rally blurred into a haze of headlines and online commentary. Rally scandal, Dom and wife caught on live feed. Fans' dream turns nightmare. Hashtag Toretto betrayal trends worldwide. I deleted social media apps from my phone and let messages pile up. Marissa's calls went unanswered. I needed distance from her, from Dom, from the life we built. I returned home to our shared house, now empty. The walls felt cavernous without her laughter. I packed my things in silence. Clothes, my camera gear, and a worn poster of Dom I'd hung behind my editing desk. I drove off with nothing but a duffel bag and a head full of questions. Who was I without my hero? What did I truly want? I found a small apartment above a pizzeria in a quiet town. The smell of baking bread greeted me each morning, a humble contrast to the roar of engines. I applied for freelance writing gigs and started a personal blog, Miles and Miles Alone. In my first post, I wrote, I lost my wife and my hero in one fell swoop. Now I'm racing toward a new finish line, one of my own making. The blog became my therapy. I poured out every detail, the rally, the live betrayal, the hollow ache that followed. Readers responded with messages of solidarity. I felt your pain. You deserve better. Keep writing. Your voice matters. For the first time since the rally, I felt seen and supported. Months passed. I rediscovered old passions, cooking simple meals, taking long runs, and reading books about real heroes, people who'd faced adversity and risen above it. I even bought a used road bike and pedaled along coastal trails, letting the wind clear my mind. Then, one afternoon, I received an email from Marissa. The subject line read, I'm sorry. My heart pounded. I hesitated before opening it. She wrote, Alex, I know I shattered your trust and humiliated you in the worst way. I regret every moment of my betrayal. I don't expect forgiveness, only the chance to say I'm truly sorry. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I stared at the screen, emotions swirling. I thought of our vows, the dreams we once shared. But I also thought of the emptiness I'd felt without her. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about rekindling what we had. It was about freeing myself from anger. I drafted a reply. Thank you for your apology. I'm healing, and I hope you find peace, too. I pressed send and felt a weight lift off my chest. A few weeks later, I sat at a seaside cafe when my phone buzzed. It was Marissa. Can we meet? I just want to say goodbye properly. I took a deep breath and replied, let's meet at the old diner we loved. She agreed. At the diner, we sat across from each other in a booth. The smell of coffee and pancakes filled the air. Marissa's eyes were red-rimmed. Alex, she said, voice trembling, I've missed our friendship. I know I destroyed us, but I don't want bitterness to define my memories of you. I nodded. I'm sorry, too, for not trusting you sooner, for letting my obsession blind me. We talked for hours, sharing regrets and small apologies. When we left, we hugged, tentative, but real. Walking back to my bike, I felt a sense of closure. I had faced the wreckage of betrayal, navigated the twists and turns of heartbreak, and emerged on the other side. My hero had disappointed me, but I found new heroes in everyday courage and kindness. Now, as I pedal along a coastal road with the ocean breeze on my face, I know this. Life isn't about racing someone else. It's about finding your own track and riding it with integrity. And as for family, it's the people who stand by you, even when the engines stop roaring.